How you doing? It's your boy BrogiNaric back again with another review. And in this video, I'm going to be giving my spoiler review of Wonder Woman 1984. If you don't want spoilers, click the non-spoiler review and the annotation. Link is probably in the description somewhere. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. We're still growing. We use your help, so thanks for doing that. Now, we're getting the full spoilers on this one. And first of all, the release, it took forever for this film to come out. I'm glad it finally did. I think this might work for HBO Max in the long run because, the whole vaccine stuff, I don't know when theaters are really going to bounce back. So I think they're playing the smart game about releasing these movies on HBO Max. Now, they were dumb by not letting the other production people and directors know about it. That's starting to bite them in the ass with certain movies that are not going to be released. So it's kind of a loose deal. It's not every movie is going to be released on HBO Max. I know Dune is one of them. The King Richard movie might not release on HBO Max day and day. Not day and day. They're going to be specifically in theaters, which may work, may not work. I don't think it is because, like I said, I don't know when theaters are bounce back. But it's a whole interesting situation. But I was just happy that this film finally came out. I am a big DC fan. I love the Wonder Woman character. I was one of the few people, especially around my friends, that before the first movie came out, I was like, they need to make a Wonder Woman movie because Wonder Woman is dope as shit. And they were like, nobody cares. No, it's fucking awesome. First movie did very well. I really enjoyed the first movie. It was my favorite of the DCEU films until Shazam came out, so that became my second. And I said in my non-spoiler review, I think Wonder Woman 84 as a whole is better, but there are still certain scenes in the first movie and certain aspects of the first movie I think are much stronger. The chemistry between, not just the chemistry, because the chemistry is still good between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine, but there's certain character moments that I thought were stronger in the first that aren't as strong. They're good, but they're not as strong in 1984. There's no action sequence in this movie, in my opinion, that surpasses the No Man Land sequence. But that shit is awesome. There's some good action sequences in this, but I don't think anything surpasses that. Now, the things that this film does do better, bigger budget, bigger scale. The villains, you got two villains, and they're both really good. Pedro Pascal is, like I said, the MVP of this film. He really holds it together. I think Gal Gadot's performance is stronger in the first movie than it is in this one. Not a bad performance, but it's not. I feel like it was much stronger. Even though in this movie she has more to do in this film, I don't think she carried it as well. Especially in the beginning, there were certain moments in the beginning with the whole mall sequence. I don't care for it. It's not bad, but it's like, I like nostalgia. I like cheesiness. I love the Richard Donner Superman films. I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, especially the first one. I think that's the best one. Even Shazam has some nostalgic kind of cheese moments, but they weren't corny. In my opinion, there's a difference between something being cheesy and nostalgic, and then something being cheesy and corny. And I feel like the sequence, that opening action sequence with her in the mall, was really corny. It seemed a little out of place. I was like, the tone of this was just like the way it was a little too bright. I get it, it's the 80s, but it was a little too bright. It was a stylized, hyper-realistic element of the decade. But the overacting from the stunt guys, the one guy that holds the girl and all that, it wasn't working for me. Then all the stuff with the little black girl, not because she was black with her, but it's this little girl who's infatuated by her, which I get. You want kids. It's very reminiscent of that scene in Amazing Spider-Man. Was it Amazing Spider-Man 2? When it was that little kid that was a fan of Spider-Man, and he wanted to fight Rhino, which I just hated that fucking scene. It was something sort of it was really cornball shit like that. I was like, it wasn't working for me. Kristen Wiig as Cheetah, she does well. I was not feeling her for the most part at the beginning. She was doing her usual goofy Kristen Wiig, oddball stuff, which wasn't working for me. But as the film went on, it got better, especially once she made the wish to become more like Diana, and she was, the hot, like people was, looking at her, and she was the hot chick now, and people paying more attention to her. She had some funny moments with her and Pedro Pascal, and some funny moments where she's like at the office, and she's like the queen bee of the office. I did like that. I will say this film does a good job once, she goes through her, I guess, hot phase from the ugly duckling phase. The film does its best to make Kristen Wiig look her best. I will say that. I'll just leave it at that. The film actually does make her look the best of her ability when she's in the hot mode. And her as the cheetah, once she turns, was really good. Because I was afraid this was going to be more that dumb old nerd person is obsessed with the hero, but then they feel slighted and then they're out for revenge. It's that archetype, but the motivation is not jealousy. It's selfishness, because she wants to be like Diana, but as a result, she ends up gaining powers like that. Well, she didn't know that, so she gains the power. So at first, she's just strong and super fast, and people like her. She's not vicious about it at first. She's just enjoying the attention. Now she does later on starts to become vicious. There's this whole thing with this random drunk guy who was trying to assault her. Like, he was really aggressive. Like, it went from 0 to like 60 really fast. And Diana shows up and stops him. And that was one of the things that inspired her to be more like Diana. So there's a moment where she's jogging, she's like speed running, and it's all these guys down this pathway, street, who are all checking her out or whatever. And one of the guys is the dude from earlier that tried to assault her, and she beats the shit out of him. Now the part that was weird about it was she was literally just like 2 blocks, like a block away from this street filled with these various guys that were trying to holler at her. But when she starts beating this one guy's ass, all those guys just magically just disappear, except for the one homeless guy that she's kind of cool with. Thankfully, the homeless guy didn't get killed. I was kind of afraid that we were going to go down that route, but no. Homeless black man was not killed, or he was not beaten up by Cheetah. But that was kind of an odd moment. But the moment where she's like starting to wear the leather print and all of that, and I'm like, okay, when is she going to turn? And her reason for turning on Diana, well, like I said, she wasn't jealous of Diana. She was just selfish because she didn't want to give, in order for the world to revert, they would have to give up their wishes. And she was like, I don't want to give up my wish. I like being powerful. I like people wanting to be, fawn over me and stuff like that. And she's stopping Diana from stopping Maxwell Lord, not out of jealousy, but like I said, out of selfishness. And I thought it was handled very well. And then her wanting to be something beyond human. She wants to be an apex predator. That making her a cheetah was just kind of random, but it was like, it's the character from the comics, kind of. It's a different take. The design, like I said, was a mix of the werecat and the sort of the hot cat version of Cheetah. My preferred version is the version that Alex Ross did in the Justice comic, where she's the traditional woman in a cheetah-like costume, but you can tell it's an actual cheetah print that's like sewn together. I thought that was way more interesting in terms of design. The design that we got in the film is good. The action sequence with her and Wonder Woman towards the end was good. I liked it. It's a CGI fest, but it was still, you can still watch it. I was kind of taken aback when she electrocuted her, because I thought she was going to kill her when they was in the water, and she was trying to get her to like renounce. She was like, you must renounce your wish, and she's like, I'm not going to do it, and she's like, I'm sorry, and she like dunks her in the water when the electric cord comes in. I thought she was going to kill, did she just kill her? But it was like, oh wait, no, she still has the Wonder Woman power, so she was taken out, but she wasn't dead, I was like, okay, because I was like, God damn, that was kind of dark there, but she just dunked her in the water while she was being electrocuted, but it didn't kill her, so I was like, okay, but yeah, she did a good job. Steve Trevor, Chris Pine and Steve Trevor, he does great. Although I will say the comedy, at least at the beginning, didn't really work for me. Like the whole him trying on the outfits, it didn't work for me. Definitely not as funny as when they did it with Diana in the first movie. The whole weirdness. She wishes Steve back, but there's a catch. It's a reference. What's the movie called? Heaven Can Wait with Warren Beatty. It's a movie from the 70s, I think. where he's a football player, he ends up dying, but comes back and he's in a guy's body, but he looks like him. So it's like that, where Steve Trevor is back, but to Wonder Woman, it looks like Steve Trevor, but to everyone else, it's a different guy. So she's messing with this other guy that looks like Steve Trevor, but he also has Steve's spirit inside of him or whatever. Weird reference to make, but it works. When I first heard it, that's the direction it was going in. I was kind of about it, but it works. And Wonder Woman is like obsessed with Steve. Like she's hasn't been in another relationship, as far as we know, since Steve, and she's hung up on him. So it just kind of shows her flaw that she was willing to make this choice to bring him back unnaturally. And also, as a result, she's like getting weaker, which I liked how they were subtle enough about it at first. Like there was a moment where they had to break into Maxwell Lord's office, and it was like a lock on the door, and she couldn't quite rip it off. Like it took her a while to rip it off. And I was like, that's interesting. That it took, like, is she weaker in this, or is she losing her powers? And it turns out she actually is losing her powers. The bullets hurt her more when she gets hit by them. She's not as strong. That fight sequence with Cheetah and Wonder Woman in the White House was really good. When Cheetah was like busting her ass, it was really good. And she was like fighting the Secret Service guys. But Steve Trevor does great. That moment where he realizes he's like, even from the beginning, he's like, look, you gotta just let me go, because that's clearly what's causing you to lose your powers. And Wonder Woman was like, no, I don't want to do it. But he's like, just let me go. Like, we've had our time. This has been fun, but you gotta move on. And that moment where she eventually realizes this and lets him go was good. Also, like I said, the funniest moment in the film was the moment when they snuck into. Somehow she had access to this air base. Like, they never explained that. Now that I think about it, she was working with the Smithsonian. She's an archaeologist or whatever, historian. How she had access to this government facility in D.C. where they were making these planes, I have no idea. But she had the security code. They never explained if she was working with the government. If she's not, because Wonder Woman is like still a secret, but she's not good at the whole concealing her appearance thing. Like, she's fighting crime in broad daylight, but she's also telling people to don't mention you saw me. Or let me take out the security camera so no one sees me. But that didn't make much sense to me. It's like, but whatever. But anyway, they sneak on the base because they need a plane to go to Egypt because they're trying to track down Maxwell Lord, who's going to Egypt. And they get in this plane, and Steve Trevor's ready to fly it, and he's like, yeah, once I get in the air, they're not going to be able to track me down. And she's like, oh, wait a second, I forgot to tell you, we got radar now. They can still see us even if it's dark. And he's like, wait, they can still see us? Are they going to shoot us down? And one of them was kind of like quiet about it. She's like, well, shit, Diana. Like that was, for something, that was the funniest thing in the movie. He's just like, well, shit, Diana. Like, you could have thought this played out a little better than what you did here. And then she uses her magic because she's Zeus's daughter, so she's a bit more powerful than what she is sometimes in the comics. And somehow she's like, well, Zeus was able to make the mascara invisible, so I'm going to use my powers to make certain things invisible now. And she practices it, and she makes the jet invisible. So we get the invisible jet, which is cool. And they fly to Egypt. And I forgot to mention, in the beginning of the film, it opens with young, I guess, 12-year-old Diana, and or 10-year-old Diana. And the Amazons are doing this sort of decathlon Olympics thing. And it's like a showcase at this sort of Coliseum, very elaborate look. It was really good design. And she's a part of it. She's like, 10 and with the other Amazons, and she's in this decathlon sort of American Ninja Warrior Amazon style event. And they got to climb up some obstacles, jump on some obstacles, jump into the water, get out of the water, ride on some horses, pick up a bow, shoot some targets, and then all of this shit. And it's the whole, like, she was doing really good at it, but then there's a moment where she kind of got a little cocky and she falls off a horse and she kind of cheats to get back into the race, and she ends up not winning because her aunt, was it Robin Wright? I forget the character's name, but Robin Wright stops her because she realizes, oh, you were cheating, so you don't have honor, so you're not going to win this and all of that. This is show some of her weaknesses. It was a good sequence. I thought it was a little long, but it was elaborate. It looked nice. The action was good. The stunts were nice. And that's all we get of the mascara. Like that's everyone from the first movie that you remember for the most part is in that sequence in the flashback, and that's it. After that, we don't talk anymore, or we don't see anymore from the mascara. And so yeah, so let me talk about the best thing in this film. His name is Pedro Pascal. He plays Maxwell Lord. He was awesome. I was not excited at first when they were like Maxwell Lord is going to be the bad guy of this film because, like I said, in my spoiler, as I said, Maxwell Lord is not. When I think Wonder Woman villains, he's not the first, fifth, second, third, fourth, 10th person I think of when I think of a Wonder Woman villain. Now he has a history with Wonder Woman in the comics. It was a whole issue where he like he mind controlled Superman, and because he had mind control abilities in the comics, and he mind controlled Superman, and he was causing damage, and Wonder Woman had to stop him, and eventually she came to the conclusion the only way to stop him was killing him. So she snaps his neck, which they didn't do in this because Zack Snyder already stole that from Superman with Zod. So, and I didn't want to see that in this anyway. So that's really the main connection they have. But in this film, Pedro Pascal plays Maxwell Lord, who is a oil tycoon. Really, he's a con man, but he appears to be an oil tycoon, and he's running this Ponzi scheme where he's doing these ads on TV, and he's like, "Hey, if you want to be rich, you want to make some money, you can just chip in and buy some shares or some funds in my oil company." I think it's called Black and Gold something or another, but it's actually a big Ponzi scheme, and he's a total facade. And he's trying to track down this mystical item called the Dreamstone, I believe. And conveniently, when the guys rob the mall, there's this antique shop in the mall that is like doing some black market shit on the backside, and they have this item that he's looking for, and that leads once Wonder Woman stops them, the FBI gets involved, and those items go to the Smithsonian. That's how Sheeta or Minerva, Barbara gets involved. Wonder Woman's there. They're trying to figure out, certain things about these items. She realizes that this item, there's something about this item, and it does have power. And then eventually she realizes it's an item from a god. I don't remember what god it is, but it's an item, some sort of trickster god. I couldn't remember what god it was. But anyway, Pedro Pascal wants it. He's been studying it. He tricks Sheeta. He flirts hard with her. That whole sequence where he's flirting with her. This is before she becomes she gets the magic powers. It's really fucking funny. He's great. Like Pedro Pascal is the MVP of this film. Whenever he's on screen, he brings a lot to it. Like he really, especially in the beginning when I was kind of about the film. Whenever he was on screen, he was doing a great job. And I love that because Pedro Pascal is a Chilean actor, and I love that they brought the whole him being Hispanic Latin actually was a part of the story, like, because you kind of whitewash the character, because in the comics, Maxwell Lord is a white guy, he's a shady businessman, although he's a good guy in the beginning, and then at some point in the 90s, he made him a villain. Like I said, he mind controlled Superman, he killed Blue Beetle, he outsmarted Batman. He's done some bad shit in the comics. And in this, he's a con man, but like I said, they do mention that Maxwell Lord is not his actual name. His name is, Max Lord is not his actual name. It's Max Lordenza or something like that. He's got like a kid. He's got a young kid named Alistair that he is like separated from his wife, but he has visitation rights or whatever. And there's a moment where he's conned this one guy who's a businessman named, he's an old white guy with white hair. His name is Simon. And at first, I kind of popped. I'm like, wait, is he Simon Stagg? He is Simon Stagg, which is kind of cool. That's a reference to another DC character who's a villain. He's an old Jack Kirby character. He's an industrial bad guy, science guy. And he leads to the creation of the character Metamorpho. So it was cool that they threw him in there. But he eventually sweet talks Barbara. He gets back to her office. He steals the Dreamstone. And his wish is he wants to become the Dreamstone. So once he gets it, he becomes the Dreamstone. He can now make wishes, but he has to get the person to make the wish, and then he can make it. And he starts doing that. Like he tricks Simon Stagg into giving him his portion of the company, but then also if he gets he wishes that, as in order to do that wish, I want you might mysteriously just get arrested or something, and then that happens, and he then gains all of his business, and then he starts getting employees and people. Then he out of nowhere he just starts becoming this big famous tycoon out of nowhere. His company starts doing well because he doesn't want to be a failure. He's greedy, but he doesn't want to be a failure. He's been wanting to be the top person his entire life. He's been treated like shit his entire life, which I like when we find that out later on in the film. What drives him, how he had like an abusive dad, and he was picked on for being poor, and also because he wasn't white or whatever. Like, I like how he brought that pathos. It came in later. Like that was his motivation. Like he wanted to be the best, even if it cost him his at the harm of others or whatever. So it's a whole moment. He goes to Egypt. He tries to get this. He gets this oil baron's what is it? Oil. I forget what he was called, but he gets his oil. He swindles him out of his oil because he grants his wish. His wish was he wanted to control his ancient ancestral land. He mentioned that it was Bialia, which apparently there is an actual Bialia in the world, but in the DC universe, there's a fictional Middle Eastern country called Bialia, which is connected to the character Queen Bee. If you watched Young Justice, various versions of Queen Bee, there's another character that is connected to. So I don't know if that was necessarily a reference to that, but I took it as a reference to that, which I thought was kind of cool. Might come in a little more with the Black Adam movie, which is also going to take place in DC, Egypt, Iraq, whatever. What the hell this is? I can't remember whatever that fictional country he's supposed to be from. But anyway, I think they kind of maybe playing around with that. But so he gets it back. It causes a big wall around a certain part of Egypt, which the Soviets are like, yeah, that's good, and America's like, that's bad. So then this whole Soviet shit is starting to pick up. People are being divided. This is pretty good cool chase sequence where they're tracking them down. That was the sort of Indiana Jones' type of vibe to it. Although it was some ridiculousness where, what was that? That was when you started to realize Wonder Woman's losing her powers because she wasn't as strong. She's like pushing the trucks around. She's getting squashed by the trucks, and Steve is back in the game trying to take over one of the tanks. And it was this crazy moment, and I haven't mentioned it yet, but Wonder Woman's lasso of truth is like ridiculous in this film. Like her lasso of truth, she does some of the craziest shit with this lasso of truth. Spider-Man might need to sue, but she was stealing all his moves with this shit. She's like swinging with it. There's a moment where there's a bullet that gets shot and it's heading towards Steve, and she uses the lasso, and the lasso wraps around the bullet and moves. I thought she was just gonna slap the bullet out of the air. No, the lasso wraps around the bullet and then she throws it. It was like, okay. There's a whole moment where Steve launches a rocket, and she whips the rope on the rocket and then pulls it through the air so she can swing to save these kids, but she kind of doesn't, because she grabs the kids, but like she tumbles a lot with the kids. I'm like, damn, you could have just, I don't know, you probably just should have let them get hit, because that looked a little rough. But anyway, there's a whole moment where she's like doing yo-yo tricks with this fucking thing, where she like lassos two guys at once and pulls them down. That was during the mall sequence. She rides lightning. She lassos lightning as she's swinging through the air, which actually, that was cool. That was in the trailer. That actually was cool in this. Then there's a whole thing. The continuity issues are ridiculous. So it's established in BVS and in the first Wonder Woman movie and in Justice League to a degree that she can't fly. This film is set in the past, 1984, and she learns to fly. Kinda. Well, she does by the end of it. Like, at first, she's like in the sky and she's kind of falling. She's falling with style. But then she's like using the rope to kind of helicopter. But then she's also kind of using the rope to like swing on the air or some shit. I didn't quite get it. But then she's also flying. And then eventually she starts to fly. Especially by the end of the film. She's like literally flying. Like the movie ends like the Christopher Reeve Superman, but she's like flying through the air. Which was a nice touch. So that happens. Cheetah, she becomes more powerful, and there's this whole side story where Wonder Woman found this armor, this ancient Amazonian armor, because there was this warrior named oh man, what was it? Asteria, I think it was her name, Asteria, who was this great Amazonian warrior back in the day. She, the Amazons, when they were trying to escape from man's world to get to the Mascara, the Amazons took all of their armor and made a special suit of armor for her, and she was left behind to hold back the men while the Amazons escaped. And as a result, she was left in man's world. And she's a great figure within the Amazonian culture. Wonder Woman finds her armor, and it's kind of just sitting there at her Wonder Woman cave, because she's got like her little area in her room. So once she decides to renounce her wish, let Steve go away, that's when she runs down the street and she flies, and she's flying, and she has to go stop Pedro Pascal, who just saw Reagan, kind of. I don't know if he's supposed to be Reagan, or I'm assuming he's supposed to be Reagan. Makes a wish with him. He wants more nukes, and as a result, he's like, as a result of your wish, I want your respect and your power, and also your access to all your military shit. And he breaks into, well, not breaks into, but he goes to this base where there's this new technology where the American government can like interrupt any broadcast anywhere in the world. So he's going to use that to broadcast himself asking people for wishes, because every time he makes a wish, he has to keep making wishes because he gets a little bit of energy, but it's also slowly killing him. So his idea is like, I'm going to make all your wishes come true, but as a result, I'm going to take your strength, your health, and your energy. So Wonder Woman is flying through the air to get to that base where he's at, but then she has to turn back around to go back to DC to get the armor. Then she goes back to, it was kind of weird how they did that. So then she goes back to the base. She's there in the armor. She takes out some of the soldiers. Cheetah's there. She's now in her cheetah mode. They fight. It was good. And she gets, she takes out Cheetah. She's trying to convince Maxwell Lord to renounce his wish. He's like, I'm not going to do it. And then that's when we find out his whole backstory and all that. But she's like, unknowns to him, she's wrapped his leg in the lasso of truth. But she's not trying to get him to turn. She's actually using the lasso of truth to broadcast to the rest of the world, to get the rest of the world to realize that their wishes are causing a problem. Because the world is basically about to have nuclear war. Like World War III, World War IV is about to go down. Like, nukes were in the air at this point. Like nukes have launched. America and Russia's launching nukes because more nukes are popping up. People are wanting people dead. People are wanting more missiles. People are wanting to be kings. Like, all this crazy shit. But, like, her using the lasso to broadcast to the world, everyone starts to see the truth. And they're like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. So everyone renounces their wishes. And it works. Well, they have to wait for Maxwell Lord, because he's the last person who hasn't renounced their wish. And he doesn't want to, but then he's through the lasso, he's able to see his son, who's lost and in trouble. So he's like, okay, in order to save my son, I'll renounce my wish. And you know, they give him some pathos and some sympathy. It's so much sympathy, which works. But I had a problem. One of the things that was odd about this film, we don't see Maxwell Lord going to jail, which I thought was kind of odd. In a superhero film, we don't actually see the villain, you know, facing justice. It's just like he gets away, or he runs away. He meets up with his son. They hug, and then, you know, she renounced her abilities. She's cool, and then it's like Wonder Woman just flies away, and that's the end of the movie. I'm like, okay, like none of these bad guys are going to jail. I thought that was weird. Yeah, it ends with Wonder Woman. It's like Christmas time. I feel like this was like a reshoot. Conveniently, because this movie was supposed to come out in the summertime, and then like the end of the movie is her at Christmas time walking down the streets. I'm like, I feel like this was a reshoot. But she runs into the guy that Steve had possessed, and there's a little joke about this terrible outfit he wore. But she doesn't mess with the guy. But I thought that was interesting. I thought they were gonna probably lean into that, because he was like, you know, you should find someone else, but whatever. And then it goes back to that, I guess it's the same festival or somewhere else. A pole breaks, and it almost crushes this woman, and the woman reaches up and stops it. And, you know, they take it away. And then you turn out it's Linda Carter, and she's the warrior which I thought was a nice little cameo. I forgot she was going to be in the movie. I thought that was kind of cool that they made her Amazon. So I don't know if she's going to make any more appearances in the franchise. But I enjoyed the film. Like I said, it's as a whole, I like it more than the second, but than the first. But there's still some things that I think the first did a little bit better. Luckily, that was the other thing I want to say. So finally, Pedro Pascal, in my opinion, is now the best villain in any of these recent DC EU movies. Took him a while, but someone finally surpassed Michael Shannon as Zod, and he was good in that role. I didn't think Zod was necessarily the strongest villain, but it was a good role. But I feel like Pedro Pascal's Max Lord has surpassed it. But I'm just happy that the DC movies are on this continued renewal. They're getting a lot better. I'm more satisfied with the films and less pissed off after I watch these films. So that's a good thing. I'm interested to see what the third movie is going to be. They don't really lead it anywhere. I'm hoping it's going to be in modern times. I don't want it to be in the past again. I want it to be in modern time. Like I said, the continuity is weird. Warner Brothers doesn't give a shit. They're not as tightly planned as the MCU, and it's working so far. So keep doing what they're doing, I guess. Looking forward to what's the next one? Suicide Squad. That should be great. But this is a good film. Check it out on HBO Max. Let me know what you thought about Wonder Woman 1984 in the comments. And stay tuned for more videos. Thanks for watching, and peace out.